Welcome to the Survivor Fans Podcast. I'm Joanne.
And I'm Stacy. We're here with Adam Klein, winner of Survivor Millennials versus Gen X.
Hi.
Hi, Adam. Congratulations on winning season 33.
Thank you so much. Wow. It's incredible. It's a dream come true.
Tell us how you were chosen to be on Survivor.
This is my third year applying. I've made a total of 5 videos because when I sent in my first audition video, I got a call back and they asked for videos with some of my family members for Blood vs. Water. I sent in a tape with my brother and I sent in a tape with my mom, and they loved my mom. And my mom and I went through the process, and she got, she had to get a medical clearance to play. And, at the time she was incredibly physically fit and got total clean bill of health in order to go and potentially play Survivor. We didn't end up getting on the season, but I stayed in training, working out to one day be on the show. I kept applying. In August of last year, my mom was diagnosed, as you know, with stage 4 lung cancer, and she was the one that encouraged me to apply again. And so I submitted tape one more time, and this time I got on, and the rest is history, as you know.
Was there anything different about that last time? Anything that you changed up you thought was really beneficial?
In my video, what I did this most recent time was I gave a sort of update. It had been, about 2 years since the last time they had really talked to me, and a lot had changed in my life, and I'd gotten a lot of promotions at work, and I was, helping. I was managing people that were twice my age and had a lot more good life experience. So, I knew that they already knew who I was and knew how big of a fan I was. So I just gave a little update on my life and why I was more prepared now than ever to actually go and play the game. And when I got down to finals casting in LA, I just had such a blast meeting everybody, and that in and of itself was a dream come true, just to be a part of that process. I guess it worked out.
Was there anything that you did in your prep once you found out you were going to be on that you felt was very beneficial once you got out there?
In terms of preparation, I started CrossFit workouts, when I first got a call back in January 2014 for Blood vs. Water. I started working out then, and I didn't stop working out until I actually went on the show. So by the time I went out there, I felt like I was in the best physical shape in my life, and I was actually pretty proud of my challenge performances. I wasn't a liability in the team challenges, which was a worry of mine, and so I was happy about that. Other than that, I think the best preparation that you can do for Survivor is just to remember that this is a game with real people and in going through their real lives with real human emotion. And some people say, I'm not here to make friends. And that's a losing strategy, because you have to make friends in order to build alliances to get to the end of the game. And you have to have friends on the jury that respect you enough to give you the title of sole survivor.
So what cover story did you give people for being away from home to film Survivor?
So I did not tell people, as you saw on the show, about my mom, until I opened up for the first time to Jay. But I also didn't want people to know how big of a fan I really was. I didn't want people to know that I had played Survivor games online, that I listened to all the podcasts, that I knew everything there was to know about Survivor. So, but I did obviously share my excitement to be there. I just didn't want people to think of me as this super fan threat. So I played that down as well. But other than that, I was truthful to myself. Truthful about the work that I do, working for the homeless shelter nonprofit, and I told people that when people asked, I told them that I went to Stanford, although I sure didn't repeat it if people weren't talking about it, because I didn't want to remind people that I was, that I had some intelligence as well.
So what did you tell people at home the reason was for being away?
Oh, that's what you mean. I'm sorry. I thought you meant...
No, I like the other answers too.
In the game. I'm sorry. I misunderstood your question. I honestly didn't tell people much of anything. I had moved home to be closer to my family already, and so I think when people reached out to me and I didn't respond, they just sort of assumed that I was at home with my family and I wasn't really in the mood to chat. I also had, my best friend and roommate sort of covering for me a little bit. So I didn't actually have to tell people much. I just sort of disappeared. And it's pretty funny because for so many years, I was like, if I ever disappear for 6.5 weeks, you know where I am. And then sure enough, it happened. But given the circumstances of what was going on with my family at the time, they didn't realize that I had actually gotten on Survivor. And so until the cast was released, my community had no idea, even though there were some spoiler sites that had the cast information out there. My community had absolutely no idea until the cast was released.
We noticed you had a bandage on your ankle while you were out there. What happened?
You guys are asking really interesting questions that nobody else is asking. That's good. Yeah. So the snake challenge. You remember the one where we were sort of like handcuffed or whatever, and we had our feet bound, and we had to slither through the sand.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I had some time to make up on that in order for our team to catch up. So I booked it, and in the process, the shackles on my ankles rubbed against my ankle and really just tore it apart. I mean, it was a burn. And so every time I went in the water, it just stung so bad. And I remember there was a point where I counted just on one of the wounds alone, there were 14 flies on the. It was pretty disgusting. And of course, the advice is keep it clean, dry, and exposed. It's very, very difficult to do all three of those things while playing the game of Survivor. And it did get a little infected, but thankfully it didn't get too bad.
Any other injuries or illnesses while you were out there or after?
You know, just the standard like bug bites, and the main thing were my ankles there, or my shins, and just the weight loss. Like, I came back so skinny. I'd lost 20 pounds, and I didn't really have 20 pounds to lose.
So what did you say to Ken to help sway him to vote David out?
Yeah, so this is something that you actually didn't see on the show, but the night that Brett was voted out, I had a long conversation with Ken down on the beach, and this may be a little surprising to hear, because at the Final Four, anyone is looking for any reason to get rid of someone that might be a threat to win the game. But I actually told Ken about my mom at that point, because I wanted him to know, one, I wanted to confide in him, as a friend, and two, I wanted him to know that, I knew he was playing for his daughter, and I wanted him to know that I was playing for more than myself as well. I wanted him to feel good about taking me to the end, because we had a Final Three deal, and Dave also had a Final Three deal with him, so he was going to have to break his word to someone. So I wanted him to feel like, in terms of loyalty, he had equal loyalty to the both of us, and that we both, deserved to go with him as much. And so then the only thing to consider is, well, who can we not beat at the end? And he realized that Dave would be impossible to beat at the end, and that's why he made the decision that he made. And all of that was what we talked about that night.
How did you think the jury votes would go if you had taken Brett, Jay, or David with you to Final Three?
I thought that I would. So the reason why I wanted to go with Brett to the Final Four was because Ken and Hannah believed Brett to be a much bigger jury threat than me. They thought that they would have a good chance of beating me, but thought that Brett had too many friends on the jury. But I believed that I would have a good shot against Brett as well. So he was the perfect person to go to the Final Four with. It didn't obviously work out like that, but I do think that if it were me against Brett and someone else at the end, Brett definitely would have gotten some votes, I think, from probably Chris and Sunday and Zeke at least. But I do think I probably still would have won the game, but it would have been close. If I had gone to the end with David or Jay, I'm almost certain that I lose the game. And part of that was that we had built them both up as these, especially Dave. We had talked about it so many tribal councils, like, he is playing the best game. So if I end up in the Final Three with him, I've already lost the argument, because I have said it throughout many tribal councils that Dave is playing the best game. And so a lot of that was deliberate to raise his threat level in the eyes of the people that I was playing with, so that there was no way that they would want to go to the end with him because of how highly he had been talked about at so many tribal councils.
What was the most difficult question you were asked at Final Tribal?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think the most difficult, people were very fair in their questions, and everyone asked me a question. We didn't see all of them on the show, but I got a question from every single person, and they really gave me an opportunity to go step by step through my game and explain every move that I made and why I made it. The most difficult was probably from Jessica, because Jessica and I were very close in the game, and I was devastated by the way she went out of the game. And I made it clear during Final Tribal Council that Ken and Hannah were the two people that I wanted to go to the end with. And so, I wanted to go to the final 5 or the final 4 and maybe even the final 3 with Jessica, but I wasn't sure that I would be able to beat her in the end. And so this was the first that she was hearing that she wasn't necessarily for sure in my final 3 plan. And so that, in a sense, is a betrayal of my loyalty to her, the fact that I admitted that I wanted to go with Ken and Hannah. And I had to explain to her, look, you were playing a very, very strong game, and I would have loved to go to the end with you if I could, but I don't know if I would have been able to beat you. It would have depended on what happened later on in the game if she had stayed in past that rock drop.
Was there anything else discussed at Tribal Council or any other questions that you wish had been shown?
Oh, yeah, there was so much. Oh, man, it's hard to think about right now, and I only watched it, from backstage, so I don't know that I even remember everything that was. I went into more detail as to why I backed down on the Sunday boot and went with Hannah's plan. And I wanted to make it very clear that it was a deliberate decision to not put my foot down and force my own way, because people had done that over and over again, where they had said, no, this is the way it has to be, and then they became the biggest threat in the game. Maybe they got their way that vote, but then at the next vote, they became the biggest threat in the game. So even though I thought that my idea was safer, as long as Jay was going to play his idol, and I felt confident that he would, the plan to get out Sunday wasn't a bad move for me, and it allowed Hannah again to feel like she was the power player in terms of our relationship, and it allowed me to not become the biggest threat in the game, so that I can continue to slide as a seeming non-threat in the game into the final 3.
I really want to know how you got out from under the log during the reward challenge at the loved ones visit.
That's another great question. Yeah, so I was absolutely stuck. I could not get out, and Brett and Sunday had to dig me out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was pretty terrible. I could barely breathe. It was horrible, and I knew that I was losing the challenge, and I felt terrible for my brother, and it was it wasn't a great feeling.
Could you have used your advantage to give everyone a visit with their loved one?
Oh, I wish. No, it didn't work like that.
Okay.
If I used the advantage, I basically take Jay's place as the winner of the challenge, and I would have decided who would go along with me on a reward. But I would have, like Jay did, only been able to pick 3 people to go with me.
Okay.
Even though it said you could choose how many you wanted to share the reward with when you stole.
It didn't say I could choose how many people I wanted to share the rewards with. It said I could choose who I wanted to share the reward with, given the number of spaces that existed for that reward. Like you saw how when Jay played it in this episode, he was only able to take 2 people, just like Dave was only going to be able to take 2 people.
How's your view of Survivor changed, and your view of yourself after going through all this?
I had very high expectations of Survivor as a production, and I was so impressed by the professionalism of the entire crew, the integrity with which they respect, letting the players play the game for themselves and not getting in the way. And it was just an incredible experience, and seeing the behind the scenes was one of the dreams come true, of just being at the challenges and seeing the dream team and seeing all of the hundreds of people that work on the show and the production. And in terms of what I learned about myself, I definitely feel like I'm the same person now that I was when I went into the game, and I think that's a good thing, because the person that went into the game is the person that was able to make these strong relationships, was able to connect with people in a real way, and win the game. And so I'm proud of the person that entered the game. I'm proud of the person that left the game. And I think if there's anything that I've learned about myself throughout all of this, it's that I believe that I am resilient, because this has been tremendously difficult. And I don't know that anyone has had the kind of return to reality after winning the game that I had. And it was brutal. It was really, really, really devastating. And when those kinds of things happen in life, I think you have 2 choices. One is you can sit around and mope and say, woe is me, and feel sorry for yourself, or you can try to hold your head up high, focus on something meaningful, and live life the way that I know my mom would have lived, and that she did live, and that she would expect me to live. and that's full of life, full of passion and energy and enthusiasm, and to never stop, dancing and moving and thriving. That's what she always did, and that's what I hope to continue to do in her honor.
I'm certain that she's proud of you.
Thank you.
What's next for you?
Thank you so much. I don't know. I mean, I really want to focus right now on using whatever fleeting visibility I have from this experience to put towards raising awareness and money for lung cancer research, because this is a very misunderstood and underfunded disease. People think it's just like a smoker's disease, or that you did something along the way to, get it, and that if you live a healthy lifestyle, you'll never get lung cancer. But the fact is 25% of lung cancer patients never smoked a day in their life. My mom was super healthy, always ate organically, worked out every day, and was the epitome of health, and got lung cancer. And it's a disease that takes away more people than the top other 4 cancer killers combined, and yet it gets a fraction of the funding because I think there's this stigma around it. So if we can break down that stigma and bring some awareness to this disease and try to move us forward in a meaningful way so that other families don't have to go through the same kind of nightmare that we experienced, then we will bring so much meaning to my mom's life and death.
Well, Adam, thank you so much for sharing with us today, and we wish your family all the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you both.
Okay, you have a great time. Have a great life.
Okay, thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Stacey. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.